Was it just a blip in the radar during the March doldrums? Or is it proof in the pudding that the Warriors are just average? On today's Locked On Dubs.
Who cares now? Because I'm here. And I would like to think that I am wanted here.
Most importantly, he a dog.
We got 4 championships.
You are Locked On Warriors,
I know Jimmy drinks great wine.
your daily Golden State Warriors podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network.
Speculation is just what it is, though.
Your team every day.
What is the good word, everyone? We appreciate you for making Locked On Warriors a part of your day, part of your week, and a part of your routine. Thank you so much for tuning into the live stream on YouTube or wherever you get your audio podcasts the morning after. We are always free and available. We are always here for you. And I am always your host, aside from the one time that I get stuck on a plane and don't have a chance to watch really any of the game. And fortunately, I didn't miss anything. My name is Charlie Walter, formerly at 95.7 The Game in the Bay Area. Also, CBS News Bay Area, KPIX, where I saw the Warriors win a championship in Boston in 21-22, covering the squad. On today's show, let's get into a little bit of the 5 stages of grief pertaining to the Golden State Warriors. This is Locked On Warriors, by the way. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Why bury the lead? And it's brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com, and you will get 50% off your first year. Yeah, so let's not bury the lead. Did not do the last show. The first time you have not seen me on this program since July. Kolsky took the wheel while I was stuck in a plane in Dallas, coming back from that March Madness show that I was producing and told you about, and did not have the service. I could not see any of the game. It was box score watching, and did I really want to go back and dissect the tape? Now, fortunately, I'm a man of the people, and I trust that all of you out there do not care whether I break down that game. So instead of watching the tape, instead of burning the tape, I just never even watched a play from the game. First time this year. Look, this is new journalism. If the content stinks, we're not going to go back and give it extra time. Instead, we're going to ask the question, is it time to accept that the Golden State Warriors, I'm not going to say are bad, I'm not going to say are below average or average, but is it time to accept that maybe this is not the year that they contend for an NBA championship? I'm going to do my best to give you the positive spin. I'm going to do my best. But God bless, it's difficult after a 112-86 loss to the Miami Heat in the return game of Jimmy Butler. Things were not good, to say the least. Let's start off with the fact that Jimmy Butler comes home, cheered, I guess, during the intro video that lost power, according to all Miami sources, and it was just a little bit awkward. They spent a bunch of money on this entertainment system, and you couldn't really hear it for a minute. They get the "Let's Go Heat" chant going. The pyro comes in, and here's Jimmy. And unfortunately, it was not a great Jimmy. It was just 11 points on 5 of 12 from the floor, 6 rebounds, 2 assists. Why am I even talking about this game? That's the question. I said burn it. I said let's not discuss. So it's as simple as this. The Warriors shot 39%, 23% from deep. And I actually did watch. I said I didn't watch a play. I watched until it was 9-2. And then at 9-2, I was like, I've seen enough. Severance season finale, a little Cold Harbor. Last night felt like Cold Harbor for the Golden State Warriors as we know them. God bless. That was tough. That was tough, people, to say the least. I am going to give you this positive spin, though, in a little bit. But first, we're going to talk about the 5 stages of grief. No piano music, unfortunately, because at Locked On, at the podcast network that we do care about copyright. So we're going to do things the right way. I can't play the violin. Kylan can't either. She's asleep either way. So it doesn't matter. So all I can do is just imagine there's the piano here, and the 5 stages of grief pertain to the Golden State Warriors as we knew them, the most dominant franchise, one of the most dominant franchises in NBA history over a 10-year span, and definitely the most dominant of my lifetime. The Bulls were of my lifetime that I remember. With all due respect to my 7-year-old self, I don't know. College was fun. Anyways, it's denial, it's anger, it's bargaining, it's depression, and it's acceptance. And Have we reached the acceptance stage? That's what I want to know. The denial that was entering this season thinking that it may be different. And there's always the thought of like 21, 22. Whenever you got Curry, you got a chance. This team still has Wiggins as a potential trade chip. They were waiting in the weeds, ready to pounce. You know, I did this all year, all offseason. The denial of the entire thing. It's the initial stage that involves the difficulty of accepting the reality of loss. It's characterized by disbelief or refusal to acknowledge the situation. The situation was the NBA's gotten a lot better, and the Golden State Warriors have just been a little bit stagnant over the last few years, to say the least. They've made some moves. They've done many things. I mean, they went out and got Chris Paul. But in terms of results, it has not been wonderful. At the same time, this is a team that's 41-31 on the season that is fighting to have some time off to rest up as they enter the playoffs. They're in the catbird seat to do so because all of a sudden the West that these teams couldn't lose, now Oklahoma City is the only team winning. Everyone else is losing, 2 through 7, 2 through 8 at this point. They're all losing some games here and there. So I guess I say that with the show being prepped 2 hours ago, and then look at the fact that on this fine Wednesday, the Clippers did win. The Nuggets did win. So the West is winning again. And the Warriors aren't in a good spot right now. They're not in the catbird seat anymore. Doesn't work that way, unfortunately, when you lose basketball games. So that's kind of where we were at the beginning of the season, was the denial that they get off to the hot start. They're 12-3. They look great. Buddy Hield. Is this an all-star type season? Everything that Kerr seems to click. Melton's the right piece. Trace Jackson Davis has taken a step up down low. Oh, look at the play from I guess Moody didn't get off to a great start. Kuminga got off to a pretty good start. We all remember that game in Houston. Like, there were some things there that got us excited. Wiggins had the resurgence to begin the year, and he was pretty consistent. But the denial, you get it. Refusal to acknowledge the situation. Then it was anger. Damn it. Damn you, Steve Kerr. I hear all you guys in the comments nonstop. Damn you, Steve Kerr. I've had enough of you, Steve Kerr. It's defined as the reality of loss sinks in, anger may emerge directed at oneself or external forces. It's not at oneself in this situation. It's a scapegoat. It's someone saying Pods. It's someone saying Kuminga. It's someone pointing at Kerr. It's someone saying Dunleavy, you're an idiot. Like, someone was pointing fingers at everyone at all times. There was a little bit of anger there. Or you just skipped all the steps and went straight to acceptance. And if that was the case, then good for you, because you haven't gone through the roller coaster ride that every other Warrior fan has gone through this season. But that's the anger. Then we get to the bargaining. And in this stage, individuals may try to regain control or find a way to change the outcome, often making deals or promises in exchange for a different reality. Trade deadline. Jimmy Butler, come on in. It's a different reality. We made trades. This sets up perfectly. This is podcasting 101. Depression. This stage is characterized by the sadness, the despair, the weight of the situation is acknowledged. That felt like the game against the Miami Heat, to say the least. So now we get to the meat and potatoes of the show. This is a segue. Acceptance. Have the Golden State Warriors, as the fan base, has you accepted the fact that this just may, and granted, there was no Steph Curry, so we're going to give you the positive spin, but that this may just not have enough oil in the vehicle this season to get across the finish line and be the last team left standing. Doesn't mean you can't get close. We can go through this cycle again. We can get back to denial, but at some point, do we have to accept it? I'm going to do my best to tell you no. We still have a fighting chance, but man, it is hard right now. We'll talk about that coming up on Locked On Dubs.
Destroy Jimmy and Domino's. I know Jimmy drinks great wine.
Today's episode is brought to you by our friends over at Monarch Money. You ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in. It's your personal CFO giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money is not just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, your investments, and your spending in one place. So stop managing your money and start building wealth. When I started using Monarch Money, I started realizing how much money, I'm not going to say it. I started realizing how much money I was spending on food. And that's where another one of our sponsors comes into play, where you get the Dash Pass. But now I budget and save more because of this app. And it's easy to manage your money with your partner. It's smoother than ever. You can track shared personal accounts. You can set goals. You can stay on the same page. And there's no stress involved. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That is monarchmoney.com. Code LOCKEDONNBA for half off your first year. Talk some Golden State Warriors basketball.
And most importantly, he a dog.
We need more dogs.
Tough day. Tough 24 hours, to say the least. And yes, that was water. Do not worry about it. All right. So, Warriors. Let's get into some of the good news here. We've hit the acceptance stage, so we think. And that's always good news when you just come to realize internally, you know what, maybe this team just doesn't have it. And why is that a good thing? Because it sets you up for excitement. That's the we believe Warriors that we know. Well, you just didn't think the Warriors had it in them to sneak out a playoff series, to even get into the playoffs at most points of that season. You get in. I think that goes down as one of the favorite seasons of all Warriors fans I've talked to. One of the most favorite ever. Most successful? Absolutely not. But one of the most iconic? Yes. Because you didn't expect it. 21-22. Curry said it was his favorite. I think you'd put it on your Mount Rushmore as one of the favorites. And you got many titles that you can choose from. And it's probably top 3 in everyone's list. And I think many would point to it as being the one, because it was the unexpected. And if the Warriors win an NBA championship this season, I'm officially pushing that button. I don't have anything on the soundboard, unfortunately, that would work for it. But I'm pushing the button that says that it would be a big-time surprise. And we'd all be pretty pleasantly fired up about it, to say the least. But that 5th stage of grief, the acceptance, while not necessarily a state of happiness, like I am cheesing, but I'm not happy about what's going on. But at the same time, you come to terms with the fact that this may not be, the dynasty may be over, right? Could be. Or it could be 21-22. That's a tease for just a second. But it may never be the way that it was. For those of you that thought maybe this 3-year window during the Jimmy Curry thing, hey, we could get maybe a couple more. Forget just one. Maybe we could get 2. Maybe we could get Curry up to 6. And Draymond up to 6. And Kerr up to 6. They got years left together. Maybe not. Maybe you have to come to terms with a way to move forward. And coming to terms with that is just accepting the fact that the Warriors they're good. I don't think they're as bad as they've been. But the pain of loss still may be a little bit present. But this Warriors team has given this to us all season long. The denial, the anger, the bargaining, the depression, the acceptance. Sometimes in the same week, you get them bam, 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 bam. But it's been a lot of bargaining, depression, acceptance in the last week. Quickly, too. Quickly. And the acceptance stage has gotten here as the Warriors have now lost, I believe, 4 of their last 5 games. Again, this is a show that values itself on its journalistic integrity, and they have lost 3 of their last 5 games. 3 of their last 5. However, you beat the Raptors by 3, and the Raptors are the Toronto Raptors. They're not great. So, with that being said, you're not playing your best basketball. Now, caveat, that's not the right word. Disclaimer, asterisk, there's no Steph Curry. He's playing like one of the best players in basketball before the injury. But remember, you lost to the Nuggets. That was not a good Nuggets team. Raptors, you had Steph Curry for most of it. Heat, you probably should have beaten them without. I mean, most of these teams you probably should have beaten without Steph Curry. You go up and down the roster, and the Warriors have enough talent to compete with the Miami Heat. Now, Bam Adebayo looked pretty good. Draymond Green did not show up in the contest. But again, I said we're not talking about this game. Now, why is there some good news, potentially, that this thing may not be done? Let's start with the fact that this happened in 21-22. And look, revisionist history. A lot's changed since 21-22. And just to use an NCAA tournament example, if you base things on the past, you would have came last in your bracket the year that Virginia won the championship. You would have came last in your bracket the year last year when Purdue made the championship. You would have probably taken Auburn to lose in the first round. Like that revisionist history, it doesn't always work. Just because something happened 3 years ago and it looks similar doesn't mean it's going to happen this year. But it did look a little similar. From March 16th to March 30th during the championship year, the Warriors lost 7 of 8. They also lost Steph Curry. They lost to the Hawks, the Wizards, the Magic, and the Spurs during that stretch. And I promise you, they looked horrific. I was just funneling Warriors content into my brain like Mark Scout down on the lower severance floor with the numbers. Like, I remember that season perfectly because I was doing TV upstairs at KPIX and then radio downstairs at 95.7 The Game. And it was just all Warriors content from the Big J perspective upstairs and the suit and tie with this is all going to be okay. Let's play the press, the soundbite from head coach Steve Kerr saying that this is just what happens in an NBA season. And then we went right downstairs to the radio and the text line would call it and say, it's over. This team stinks. They're not big enough. They turn it over too much. Clay can't make a bucket. Jordan Poole's a ball hog. The list goes on. And guess what? They won an NBA championship. And because of that, I said I'd never count out the Golden State Warriors. And I won't. I may put a $5 futures bet in on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. I may do that just because of the odds. Do I think it's going to happen? Probably not. But again, the fact that it happened in 21-22, that's a long iteration of Warriors ago. Every year that's gone by has looked less and less like the Golden State Warriors that we remember. Again, though, 41-31. I'm like weaving myself in and out of belief and just absolute delusion. And I'll take it. But I promise you, when I was covering that 21-22 team on the 95.7 text line and upstairs, the YouTube comments that I saw last night on this show, while Kolsky just had to read nonstop angry fan after angry fan. This is why they lost. That's why they lost. I promise you, it looked a lot like it did back in 21-22. And you know what happened? Curry came back fresh. Warriors going to the postseason with a 5-game win streak, title loading. This doesn't feel like that. But again, the spin zone of it, at that time, that didn't feel like a championship type team. It didn't feel like a title was loading. So we will see. Steph Curry's a big part of this team. The fact that he goes down, the fact that there is just this kind of lull where every other night I feel like I'm doing a post-game show, and now all of a sudden I take like a 6-day vacation and I feel like I missed one game. I know I missed one game in like 6 days. That includes, this show, obviously, and the show the next day, because the Warriors don't play again until Friday. But it's just that stretch of the season. It's the weird time in March where, the weather in a lot of the parts of the country that the Warriors are traveling to is starting to change. And it's just, I don't know. There's a lot going on. And the human aspect of it is something that I hope is coming into play right now, where guys are just tired. They're just tired. They don't have Steph out there. You had the Jimmy Butler honeymoon. You had the energy right out of the gate, that palpable buzz. There was a big desire. Hey, we need to get back in this thing. Warriors then take a lead. And it's just the classic example of you lose someone. The Ewing effect is no longer in play, where you're playing great basketball without Steph. You're missing one of the best players in NBA history, the best player on your team. It affects you. You run into Miami, who plays well, and you run into an Atlanta team that shoots the cover off the ball, and you can't come back in that game. And that is why we sit where we sit. That is what you hope. I was talking to Gordon Hayward. Great guy, by the way. Shouts. Working on that March Madness show. I was just talking like, like I knew him from high school in Indy or something, Midwest guys, and was asking about the NBA and just the human aspect of it. The fact that, you got families, you got kids. It's a job, right? Sure, they make a ton of money, and that's an excuse for a lot of fans to say, yeah, but they make all this money. They have all these cars, this and that. It gives them more scrutiny at their job, which can then lead to, worse performance if you're not built like that. But they're human beings. They go through lulls too. Their jobs suck sometimes too. And this happens at times in the NBA. And even happens with title teams, as we saw in 21-22, and how that Boston team that went to the championship had their struggles as well. But I don't think it didn't necessarily feel like that. That's what I'm hoping. But that's what we were hoping at the beginning of the season, where the team starts losing all these games to bad teams, right? Like they were playing well until they started playing some bad teams like San Antonio and Brooklyn. And that's where the wheels really fell off. And that is where the fingers are crossed. And we are hoping that it changes this time. But that's kind of my excuse here, is the human aspect, You got some days off. You're traveling all across the country. You're playing some bad teams. You lose your star. You've built a little bit of a cushion. You've been winning a ton of games. That is what I like to think. So I need to find something to gaslight myself, fool myself, make sense of all this, or maybe just even an excuse. That is where we currently stand right now. I can already hear Kylan walking down the steps. She's getting ready to step into the studio and make a face and try and halt this show, but she will not do it like she did last time. Instead, we'll come back. We'll tee up what the Golden State Warriors have coming up. We'll put a bow on the show and hope that there are brighter days ahead for the Dubs as they get ready for two of the worst teams in the NBA, in the New Orleans Pelicans that are up first. And then after the New Orleans Pelicans, it's the San Antonio Spurs before you really hit a tough stretch. So if you want to talk about two must-win games, at least if you want to avoid the play-in, these are those games. Let's talk about it coming up.
Very, very, very happy that I'm not getting suspended no more.
And most importantly, he a dog.
We need more dogs.
All right. This stretch coming up. New Orleans, San Antonio, at Memphis, at the Lakers, Denver, Houston, at Phoenix. The Suns are playing good basketball. Mentioned teams are losing in the West. All of a sudden, the Suns are starting to win some games. So you got 5 tough games coming up after San Antonio. There she goes, making the faces. You got any thoughts on the team? She said no. New Orleans, San Antonio coming up. Both road games. Memphis, Lakers also on the road. You got to win these basketball games. It is as simple as that. They are terrible, terrible. Miami at least has some talent, New Orleans lost everyone. They are completely banged up. San Antonio no longer has Wembanyama. This should be a stretch where you come out of this with 2 games and a bounce back, and I'll feel a little bit better. You lose both of these games, especially if Curry's playing in either of them. Vibes are down bad. I know it's just 3 of 5 you've lost, but it has not looked the same. And again, it just feels like that cycle that we went through at the very beginning of the season. And we're hoping it's the 21-22 cycle. These seasons have a lot in common, minus trades. They do. But I don't know. Not feeling it at this current moment. It has been a struggle, to say the least, over the last week or so. Curry, though, we'll see with that contusion, pelvic contusion. I wouldn't mind keeping him out another game, making sure that everything's good to go. Obviously, he was planning on playing in the last game as he was getting ready for things. Just said that didn't feel great. Told Celebrini, not yet. So we will keep the Steph Curry situation monitored. We will see if he goes out there and plays in the ball game. And if he does for the Warriors, you better. And regardless, you better beat the New Orleans Pelicans, to say the least. The good news in all this is that the Warriors are still there, right? Before the season, we told you the Warriors are in this position, you're pretty happy. They are tied with the LA Clippers after the Clippers win on Wednesday. Tied now. And these two teams play the last game of the season. So technically, you're still, I keep using this word, you're still in the catbird seat. You still control your own destiny, but you got to start winning some of these games. Clippers' schedule is not that difficult. You got Minnesota nipping at your heels too. Here's the good news. You have a 6.5 game lead on the Phoenix Suns. It is almost virtually impossible with this many games left in the season that the Golden State Warriors can be caught by the Phoenix Suns. So at the very least, you get a play-in. And I know what you're saying, a play-in. Come on now. Hey, Sacramento fans used to, they coveted that for years. You know, go ask the Utah Jazz how they'd feel about the play-in. The play-in, I get it. That's not where the Golden State Warriors want to be, but they're at least going to have a chance to compete, right, for an NBA championship, which I guess we'll take it. But we do want that 6 seed, and it feels like you have just let opportunity after opportunity slip. You're playing bad basketball, and the vibes that were a theme of this show and of this season, like good vibes only, PTO, positive thoughts only, Hawaii, aloha. Like that's what we were doing in the preseason. Come on now. Vibes were so good. Jimmy comes, rather. Vibes are good. And vibes have not been good. Vibes have not been good, to say the least. But you can change that quickly. You got some time. Like I said, get hot before the playoffs. Secure that number 6 spot. You are where you need to be. And there's a lot of moving parts at the top to where it could be the Nuggets. It could be the Lakers. You could get the Grizzlies potentially if you get that 6th spot. And the Warriors have been playing down to their competition. They've played better against better teams. Think about that. Because their last few losses, and then the Nuggets, that was not a good Nuggets team. That was a depleted Nuggets team. You got the Ewing effect. And then the very next game, you play a fully healthy Bucks team, and you steamroll them. So Warriors have been playing good basketball against good teams for most of this season. Take away a game against Memphis where you lost by 1,000. Take away 2 games against Cleveland where Cleveland just kicked your ass this season. I don't know how you expect to if you get to the Eastern Conference Finals, take down the Cleveland Cavaliers. But hey, we're here. We're here. And we've accepted, most of us, myself, with a little bit of delusion, with a little bit of denial. I'm teetering back and forth between acceptance, denial, that this may just not be an NBA championship team, and we may not see one in this era. But at the same time, what's that middle step we told you about? Bargaining. Can we find a way to change the outcome? Can we find a different reality? And what that different reality would be is the Warriors just getting into the playoffs. We believe they can do it. Believe they can do it. Joe H., hello darkness, my old friend. It's not all that bad. Come on now, folks. Not all that bad. The performances, specifically Miami, horrific. NBA season. Let's go to the Gordon Hayward method, where he said, sometimes players he didn't say him. He just said in general, as a human being, they're not robots. There are games that you don't have it. Your dog has a hurt leg. My dog's up there right now with a hurt leg. How do you think work went today? It's good. It's good. Great. Yeah. Wonderful. But that's life. That's life for any human being. And this is a sport filled with exceptionally talented, athletic human beings, but human beings all the less. And that is what I'm trying to do in this bargaining stage. I'm just trying to point to the fact that it's just that time of the year. It's just the March doldrums. These guys are caught up in the madness. Their brackets stink. Whatever. Still some season to go. Let's give you the exact number that the Warriors have remaining throughout the stretch. They are down to their final 10 games. And they're into the stretch. Here comes Justified. Justified. Great horse, by the way. 10 games to go for the Warriors. San Antonio, Portland, San Antonio, New Orleans. Stinkers, cupcakes, cakewalks. That's 4. LA Clippers, last game of the season. Hard to beat a team 3 times. Clippers have already beaten you twice. That's at home at Chase Center. Could be for all the marbles. So it's 5 in between that I'm really intrigued to see. Memphis, LA, Denver, Houston, Phoenix. It's going to be fun. We're going to have a healthy Curry, hopefully. It's the stretch run of meaningful basketball. Let's look ahead to the future. Let's burn the tape. And hopefully you were like me, delayed on a plane somewhere at a late night Saturday church or something, at a late night dinner. You couldn't find service. You were at a cabin in Tahoe. There's no bars anywhere. And all you got was a little box score. And you shrugged it off and said, that's just sometimes life. We're going with the Gordon Hayward method. It's just human beings having a bad day. Very bad day, though. Quite the bad day at the office, to say the least. Let's figure out how the Warriors can get their flow back. And from there, let's talk about better times ahead. Warriors, Friday night, tip it off with the New Orleans Pelicans. You always got to monitor the Zion Williamson situation. I'm checking out the box scores every night because I am personally a fan of his game. I think he's fun. I think he's great for the league if he can really figure it out. And every time I check the box score, it seems like he's not playing. But when he does play, it's like triple-double, 28, 7, and 8. He's awesome. He's a fun watch. So you hope you get New Orleans with a Zion because you should beat him either way. If you don't, you sure as hell better beat him. But it's San Antonio after that. All right, that's a wrap, everyone. Have a great rest of your Wednesday. Have a great Thursday. Great rest of your week. Go Dubs on Friday. And we will talk to you soon. Peace, everyone. You can find the show on YouTube and wherever you get your audio podcasts. Hit the like on the way out. It's free.